So we're going to go through some introductions, do a Vet2Viz story, which I'll explain in a second. Introduce our guest speaker, Matt Bratton. Skip the job board. We'll do our next event announcements and then some closing remarks, and then we'll kind of keep it open-ended with discussion and networking. So you guys want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. I'm Tim. I'm a Air Force vet. I reside in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. Started this tug about almost 3 years ago now with another Krista Rago, who's online right now. But yeah, so that's me.
Hey, everybody, Lulu Wangzai, turn on your camera if you have it. If not, it's not a big deal. But welcome to the to our first tug of the year. So former Marine aviation. You guys see my LinkedIn, please. We'd love to get connected and help in any way possible. So I'm always open. Ethan?
Hey everyone, Ethan here. Yeah, one of the co-leads here at the Veterans Advocacy Tableau user group. Looking forward to networking with all of you. Definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Happy to connect and potentially network and learn from each other and grow with one another. So that's what we're all about.
And I'll just kind of do my introduction and the Vet2Viz story at the same time. My name's Abe, former Marine. I did supply and recruiting. So if you hate your recruiter, I'm not that guy. If you ever joined. So what the Vet2Viz story is kind of just explaining like how we got from the military to where we are in analytics today. I'll just kind of do like a quick down and dirty of my story. I got out August 2018. Originally wanted to be a financial advisor, but then when I found out you have to prospect and sell, I said, no, thanks. I don't want to do that anymore. First semester of my MBA, I stumbled into data analytics and I did a seminar with Morgan Stanley that was for veterans. And I saw wealth data analytics. And then I was like, that sounds really cool. So I started reaching out on LinkedIn to people about October, November 2020. Then a couple months later, I started picking up SQL, primarily Power BI, Tableau. Now I'm mostly into SQL and R. That's just kind of where my interests are. I need to get back on Tableau because I'm part of the Tableau user group. That's just quick down and dirty in mine. I really would like to hear from the audience, kind of like what's your story from the military, whether you're a veteran or not, if you're spouse dependent, and kind of to how you got into analytics today. So anyone's welcome, just come off mute and start telling us your story.
Hey everybody, I guess I'll start. My name's Matt. I'm still in the Navy actually, and I have been for about 20 years. I'm transitioning in May, and I kind of have a traditional kind of data analyst background, but in a different sense, I'm one of those secret squirrels that everybody talks about. And kind of like one thing that drove me towards data visualization and data analytics in general is just the idea that you can say anything via data and it eliminates bias, or you can go ahead and present your own bias within the data. But I'm just kind of excited about doing it. And I've been enrolled in the University of Washington for a couple of months now. And I'm going to be going to a couple of boot camps, and I'm just continuously learning and enjoying it.
Welcome, Matt. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go. This is James. I'm actually not working in data yet. I'm still a full-time student at Embry-Riddle in their business analytics degree plan, but I also added a math minor so I could kind of transition over into data science later on. So yeah, I kind of discovered this because I'm coming into my core analytics classes, and they don't necessarily teach a lot of Tableau and some of the stuff that's used out in industry. My school's kind of a SaaS school. So I started learning Tableau, Power BI, Python, and R all on my own, and SQL, which did land me a job interview tomorrow for a junior data analyst position over on Pearl Harbor, mostly because I already have a secret a secret security clearance and the positions basically in the shipyard domain that I used to work in before I retired from the Navy. So that's pretty much what got me the interview. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to start networking with more veterans in the Tableau and the data community. So that's kind of why I'm here.
Well, you're in for a treat, James.
Yeah.
With our speaker, you're in for a treat. So stand by.
Yeah, I'm
Anyone
just
else?
I'm hoping I do pretty good on this interview tomorrow because I got pretty much I got all the domain knowledge I need, and I think I'm pretty good to skill up where I need to in the first couple months. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can go.
Come on.
My name's Carl. I did Arabic cryptologic voice intercept for the military, a few stints overseas, and ended up in the oil industry for 11 years doing drilling analytics, and transitioned into Salesforce consulting about 3 years ago. And with that, I saw the oil and gas sales play that was heavy on Einstein. So I did an Einstein boot camp. I did not pass the test last week, but I'm moving that direction. And so I'm interested in seeing the Tableau side and seeing how they integrate.
Hey, I guess I'll go.
Go ahead.
Chris Orego, I work for the VA Office of Inspector General now. I basically do SharePoint stuff for the most part. But my general interest is basically not really prototypical, like, I guess metric data or even financial data, but more so like archival data, to try to really look at veteran stories and kind of put it out there so people can find it easier. So that's kind of where I focus most of my attention.
I'll go. My name's Source. Actually, whoever was going on first, you go ahead and go. I think we both talked.
Sorry. Hey, this is Terry Smith, and I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2018. Currently work for Simplus as a consultant. And one of the projects I was on, I implemented or brought in, folded in the Tableau dashboards into the product, and just thought that the storytelling and everything was so much better than anything that I'd seen. So that's what really got me hooked. And so I'm slowly trying to move over to just strictly Tableau, whether it be within Salesforce or not.
All right, it looks like we got time for one more. So first person to speak, ready to go.
I'll grab it. So my name is Eve Dorsors. I'm currently at Hill Air Force Base. I was 10.5 years aircraft maintenance, 4 different airframes, and then moved over to this fancy new world called cyber. The Air Force is actually transitioning 3 deltas to 1 deltas. That's going from classic comm to now cyber, specifically increasing the footprint on 5th generation fighter aircraft, and that specific cyber footprint is significantly expanding. So I'm actually the flight lead on that. We have no TOs, no tech schools, nothing. We're literally building it from the ground up. So it's pretty cool. So that's kind of what's bringing me here, is because I am in the process of going for a master's program, and my professor who's on this call, he sent us a link, sent all of us folks that are veterans are still in, which I'm still in, to check this out. And I really enjoy what you guys have going on here. I enjoy this networking thing. And I'm also a huge rugby player. I'm on the Air Force women's rugby team. And I honestly would love to do some data analytics for World Rugby, USA Rugby. That'd be the best. But then future, international relations, I work with that all the time, working in a new program. So this is it's super exciting. I'm ready to get going.
Okay, awesome. Well, I guess it's time to introduce our main event, our guest speaker, Matt Bratton. He went to a top MBA program in Spain. He's held every analytics position that you can think of. He has plenty of experience interviewing and being interviewed from both sides of the table. He is currently the VP of Alto. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Matt. He is a BJJ blue belt. He's also my life coach, Excel coach, and LinkedIn BJJ coach. So without further ado, here's Matt Bratton.
Wow, that was flattering. Thank you, Abe. I appreciate all of that. All right, so I'm going to see if I can successfully share my screen here. So guys, give me just a moment while I try to ramble. I will say that hearing everyone's introduction there that was willing to share was awesome. I think it kind of reminds me of why I love this field, the field of data analytics. By the way, let me know, can you see a bunch of people's legs right now? Is that what you're seeing on the screen?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can hear me okay? We're good. Okay.
Sounds coming in good.
Look, guys, I've been in the game for quite a while at this point, and I'm going to talk about some of this in a minute, but just hearing everybody's story, this is one of the things I think that's so exciting about this space, is that it's so new. It is so exciting and it's so fast growing. It is attracting talent from all over the place, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of interests. You can apply data and analytics to so many different things. There's every reason to be excited and motivated by this space. If you're into visualization, if you're into engineering, if you're into any number of things, data's there, analytics is there, you can do something with it. So, I mean, some of the best analysts that I've ever worked with had super untraditional backgrounds, talking like psychologists and other things that they just happened upon this field and they just blew up. They're amazing. So no matter what it is that you're coming from, you guys can find a home in analytics. So I'm excited. I'm honored actually to be invited to come and talk to this. I hope that you guys get some value out of it. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my PowerPoint is doing what it's supposed to do. So quick summary of what this presentation is and a little bit of what it is not. So this is actually a repurposed module that I have within my analytics career access program that I offer. And it's an entire workshop dedicated to analytics interviews. So because of that, the nature of being a workshop, the intention behind it was that there's going to be, homework and assignments and things like that. I'm going to kind of blaze through a lot of that stuff. This is over 2 hours worth of content that I've sort of curated, and I'm going to try to get through in 45 minutes. I've tested it a couple of times. I think I'm going to be able to do it, but just know I'm going to move fast. You will have time for questions afterward. You will have access, if I am to understand this correctly, but you will have access to the recording after the fact. And hopefully everybody gets some value out of this. And the team leads here, you guys are well aware. I've said that if you need to cut me off, interject, ask a clarifying question, any issues, feel free to do that. This is not like, I am not an immovable object here. So the punchline, what I'm trying to get across in this workshop is getting everybody to the point that you can tell your story with confidence. I said I'm going to talk a little bit about what this is not. This is not, we're not going to get down into the weeds and talk about how to ace the technical testing that you're going to get for SQL qualification or an Excel test or a take-home Python exam. We're not getting into technical crap associated with an interview. This is all about putting together a coherent story so that you can sound confident and be memorable in the eyes of the interviewer, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully everybody is on board with that. But because I'm under bright lights here, give me a second while I drink some water. So my background, just very briefly about that, why you may or may not be interested in the words that are coming out of my mouth. Abe did say that I was the VP at, I think he said Atos or something like that. Very close, Abe, very close. I'm the VP of analytics at a company called Tableau Software. It is a nonprofit accounting software in the, it's accounting software in the nonprofit space. So that's what I do. It's a SaaS company. It's growing very, very quickly, and it's an awesome place to work. I love it. But I'm also the founder and owner of TMB Analytics, which is my baby, my side project, my passion project, whatever you want to call it. This is not a full-time job for me. It's just something that pre-COVID, I used to go with regularity to my alma mater and other places local to me. I'm in Central California. I would do workshops, guest lecture at the university, give talks to students and young professionals. And when COVID hit, all of that stuff dried up, but I still had all of this content, all of these messages that I like to share, and I would get to go and share to people. And I decided to just package that up and see what happens. So thus TMB Analytics was born as a COVID business, and TMB is just my initials. It's not something super creepy and cryptic. It's just Thomas Matthew Bratton. That's my full legal name. So don't get any crazy ideas about that. My undergrad was in finance, kind of like Abe. I thought I wanted to be a financial advisor until I got out and did an internship and learned very quickly that I did not want to be a financial advisor. I'm not a salesperson, but I did like the analytic component of it. And so I came out and I got a job as a credit analyst and then a loan analyst. And then I went off and got my MBA from ESADE in Barcelona and did a few other things. So since then, I've got about 16 going on 17 years of experience in the analytics space. I, like Abe also mentioned, have held several different titles: credit analyst, loan analyst, junior analyst, analyst, principal analyst, manager of analytics, director of analytics, senior director of analytics, VP of analytics, all different derivatives that include the word analyst in the title I have held throughout my career. And over the past 10 plus years, I have been in positions of leadership, which had me in 4 cases at this point, building an entire department from scratch. So that is what has led to all of these interviews that I've been involved in. It takes a lot of work to fill seats, to build departments, and doing that at many companies. And then not only that, where I began through grad school, through undergrad, all of the interviews that I've done, they're always for financial analysts and other types of analytics roles. I've been in a lot of interviews. I've seen a lot of things. My experience is not the universe of experiences, but I think it gives a pretty decent indication of things that you might expect, which is why this whole thing came to be. All right, let's do a quick overview of what this workshop is going to cover. We're going to talk about what the point of an interview is, talk a little bit about the experience from both sides of the table. We keep alluding to that. The whole point of this is to provide context. I think this is something that gets overlooked in a lot of your very typical messages around interviewing. They completely ignore what's happening on the other side of the table, which I think is an important thing to keep in perspective. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go over some interview essentials. So that's some question preparation. That's where you're going to probably want to take some notes. We're going to discuss building your story and then telling your story, followed by what a good idea for next steps would look like after an interview. And then I'm going to do a quick recap and share some of my contact information. Now, I think Al Bellamy is out there in the universe. I can hear him just gritting his teeth because I'm going to break a cardinal rule of presenting. I'm going to read to you guys for just a moment, but I wrote this. I felt like reading it. I don't want to just say it. So with a clear story and a better understanding of the interview process, you can spend less time stressed out and more time focused on what matters most. The whole point of this thing is to give you a thing to channel your energy on so that you're not worried about all of the could be's and would be's and all that kind of crap. We want you to be focused and have confidence knowing what you're doing is going to help you get the end result that you're looking for. So by the end of this thing, what success should look like is that you should not come away from this thing thinking about interviews in the same way. You should also feel much more confident when you're telling your story, knowing that you're doing it in an appropriate way that's going to make you memorable. You should also understand that you are not going to get every job that you interview for, and that is okay. Anybody who tells you that they've got the secret ingredient to get you every job is full of crap, and you don't want every job that you interview for. I'm sure a lot of you have had interviews where you start seeing red flags. It is 100% appropriate to dismiss yourself from those processes. I've done it. Many people have done it. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Okay. And just a little pat on your back. You are already one step ahead if you are listening to this right now. And I say that because I cannot make you care. I can't make you care about any of this stuff. Anything that I say doesn't matter. Okay. But the fact that you've signed up, you're here, you're listening to a workshop on interviewing tells me that you do care a little bit. Okay. Because of that, you've already taken a step above and beyond what most people do. So that means that you're already one step ahead of the game. Okay. So just have that little pat on the back. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns while I take another sip of water? Nobody wants to cut me off yet? Good, good. Or maybe you do, you're just afraid to do it. That's okay too. All right. What the hell is the point of an interview? To test the candidate to ensure they possess an adequate level of skill to perform the job duties. I made that up, and I think that's a pretty commonly held belief. I think a lot of people think of an interview in that way. They think they're going and they're just going to get like a skill checklist going on. Over the years, I've developed a slightly different perspective on what the point of an interview is. To me, the point of an interview is to identify the candidate who is the best fit to fill an existing gap within an organization. Okay, there's a gap that needs to be filled, and we're looking for the right person to fill that gap, be it through some set of skills, personality, all sorts of things. So what this means is that during the interview process, I'm going to be doing a few different things. Number one, I'm going to be validating claims that you made on your resume, which means it is imperative that you do not lie. There are people out there who will advocate that little white lies here and there are okay. You will never hear me on record saying that that is okay. Don't lie on your resume. Some of the easiest things to disprove are crap that people say on a resume. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just please don't. But we are going to make some effort to validate stuff that you say on your resume. We're also, through our discussion, going to be investigating cultural fit to make sure that you are going to fit well within the organization. Okay. This is where, that cliche, like be yourself, be authentic. There's truth in that. That doesn't mean you don't go in and act like a complete dick. It means go in and be, unless that's who you are, that's fine. But be yourself is really the point here, because if you go in and you act like the person you think they want you to be, and then they hire you because they think you're that person, you're going to be miserable being an actor all day, every day, because eventually that facade's going to roll away. You're going to be yourself and you're going to be unhappy. So be yourself. And that's going to be the best way for you to make sure that you're getting in with an organization that you're going to mesh well with. That's important. And that's one that I think that would probably elicit a lot of debate from people. Bring it on. That's just how I feel. Evaluate technical fit. So I put this last. This is sort of table stakes, guys. And this is what I said. We're not going to get into the technical testing component of an interview, but you need to be prepared. You have to know what the job description says that you have to know. If you have to know SQL or if you have to know Excel, make sure that you know those things, or you have some level of competency that you are going to be able to handle that stuff. There's tons of resources out there to help you in this regard. So be prepared. Okay. That's it. Don't overthink it.
And Matt, can you kind of give like a quick example of something that you found on a resume that you validated that was false, that person tried to pass off as true?
Excel expert, easiest thing to debunk. My God, besides the obvious, like putting jobs or roles or positions or things that you do, there's going to be background checks. They will typically call references depending on the role. There's lots of things that are super easy to validate. The most common one that would get you blacklisted from one of my processes was when somebody would say things like, I'm expert experience in all of these things. And then you go, that's awesome. We need someone like you. Can you tell me about a time that you did this? Oh, well, no, not really. Or, yeah, so about that. And then they start telling just garbage. Like, it's incredibly, I will give anybody the benefit of the doubt. I understand people get nervous. I understand that's a thing. It's not that hard to respond appropriately to these questions if you know what you're talking about. And when you don't, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Some people are more forgiving than others. I'm probably on the more forgiving side, where if I take you as teachable, or you put something there, not in a malicious way, but in a general ignorant way, like you just didn't know what you didn't know, but you seem teachable, I may let that slide. But I'm going to tell you on the spot, like, I don't know that this is appropriate, but let's talk about that. And if they respond in an appropriate adult way, then we can move forward. That's happened. I've had people absolutely fail my Excel test, but they were super interested in learning. They were asking me questions. They were interactive, and they did well. Get offers that way. when they do better than people who just don't ask questions. They sit there and they just flounder. Does that kind of answer the question?
So Matt, I actually have a question. So
Yeah.
I've spent, I'm a government employee, and with USA Jobs, there's an electronic questionnaire that you have to fill out. And these electronic questionnaires make you rank whether you're a novice or a complete expert at something. And these are graded by computers, basically. They're not graded by humans. So the only people that are going to get to the next step are the ones that are saying that they're experts at everything. And if you're honest, like I tend to be, you don't get to that next step. And so people just say, just put that you're an expert at everything. I don't do that because I'm the one that's going to get caught. So I don't know if you have any advice about that. I mean, USA Jobs is just a cluster when it comes to actually picking a qualified candidate. They just do word scans basically. I got rejected because I didn't say that the word that they were looking for was drafted, and I put like wrote or composed or something like that. So I don't know if you have any advice about that and getting past those robot reviewers.
Advice, I'm not sure. General enragement and anger, a little bit too. I'm having flashbacks to when I was fresh out of college. Actually, no, I was finishing college. I couldn't get a job for the life of me for that same sort of reason. Every application that I was filling out for this entry-level thing would ask all sorts of crap. And it was just, I was being honest. And it wasn't until I started to network and talk to the right people, and then the application became a formality. I understand that in some instances, that is almost an impossibility because of the bureaucratic nature of how the process goes. But when you start to lead with networking, you start to lead with value, the interest comes from the outside in. You're not necessarily the one looking for the job. I know this is a BS answer to your question. It's kind of like, well, just avoid it. I know that's not always possible. My guidance would be, if you're getting guidance from somebody who is either in that process or involved in that process, follow their guidance. Don't, and to my point earlier, I will never go on record saying lie. I would say do the best that you can do with no malintent, do no harm, basically. And if that means you don't get the job, then maybe you should be looking somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their own issues to deal with. Maybe they don't deserve you. I don't know. Again, I understand that's a cop-out, but that's my attitude. If your process is so jacked up, I don't even want to talk to you.
Right.
So it's a very arrogant thing to say. I understand that, but
sorry, thanks.
Sorry, there is no secret ingredient on that one. It's a crappy thing that exists in a lot of companies. So,
All right, thank you.
Hey, Matt, I don't know if you're going to cover it, but I'd love for you to just comment on the whole job description versus align your resume to the job description. Like, again, I don't want to steal your thunder, but hopefully you can comment on that as well in terms of reading through the line of certain words, I guess, in a job posting, because it's not always, don't eliminate yourself, right? Because that's always been my motto. Sometimes they'll say, I need someone that's 10 years experience, but in reality, to your point, like example, it might not be that hard line, but they just have to put something in there. So maybe there might be some best practice that you can probably provide when they're reading these job descriptions.
How about this? In the next couple bullets and slides here, I'm going to kind of address some of that. It wasn't on the agenda, but I'm going to add it to it. So if by the end of the next two slides, I don't answer your question, I'll go out of my way to do that. But so that is a good question, and I'm glad you brought it up. So I will address that here. So time for some context. We've said several times that we're going to talk about interviewing from both sides of the table. So what does that even mean? Having the opportunity to hire so many people from so many different entities for so many different roles has given me this perspective that I want to share with you guys. And I'm calling it an inside look, where we're going to discuss a little bit about what it's like to be the interviewer or the person, the hiring manager involved in this process. So here's kind of how this process goes when I'm hiring. So if I'm the interviewer, I have a need and I want you to succeed. I don't call you in here because I think you're going to fail. I don't call you in here because I want to be a dick to you and all that kind of crap. There are humans in the universe who take pride in being a complete turd during an interview process. Most people don't. Okay. Most people just want to fill this need that they have. So they want you to come in and be a rock star candidate. That's what they want. Genuinely. Okay. They're also usually under pressure. The hiring process sucks in general. You got HR involved, you've got finance involved, you've got a need, you're filling that hole currently somehow, some way. And then this interview process is something you have to do on top of your day job. So it's like this little nuisance that has to happen and has to get prioritized. It's not like you just drop everything and this is all you do right now. This is something that you do in the middle of your day, in the middle of things going crazy. So you're usually under pressure in an unenjoyable process. You're also usually under the thumb of HR and other entities who are protecting the business, and they tell you cannot say X, Y, and Z. You have to communicate this way. You have to share all of this stuff. You cannot share that stuff. So they're following these rules that are in place to protect the company. Therefore, it's frustrating for everybody involved. But just know that they're telling you, in general, the best and most information that they are able to share, okay? They also can't wait to wrap up this process. They don't like it to drag on. I am the interviewer. I want this role filled yesterday, okay? So they are not the bad guys. I'm just telling you right now. As the interviewer, now we're back on the other side of the table. I want this job. So I walk in there and I want to succeed, right? I want to do good. I want to go in and blow their socks off. Unless, again, there's always exceptions. You could be an asshole who just interviews for fun, in which case, go pound sand, okay? You're also usually under pressure because interviewing is a stressful process and you don't like doing it. You're also usually telling the truth. Most people don't lie. They have that inherent desire to tell the truth. Of course, they want to spin it in a positive light, but in general, people are telling the truth. And they also can't wait to just get this thing done and over with. All right. You notice some similarities there. Ultimately, the interviewer and the interviewee want the same outcomes. They want you to be successful. They want to fill that job. They want it to be done and over with. So the whole relationship is complicated. And you've got social media out here where people like get tons of engagement and likes and shares and thumbs up and whatever internet points for talking about these horror stories and crap like that. Look, it's not real for the most part. That's not usually how it is. It is true that interviewers will tend to under communicate, and that is given the pressure and the rules that they're trying to abide by. And because of that, interviewees tend to overthink things to fill in the blanks for the information they don't have. And they're usually thinking the worst, or they're thinking I got ghosted or this, that, or the other thing. And what that leads to is just a process that makes it crappy for everyone involved. So I'm sorry if I just put a dark cloud over this whole process and made it sound like, man, interview sucks. It doesn't have to. I'm just telling you so that you have this perspective when you're going into interview that, look, it's difficult. The best thing that you can do is prepare so that if you do a good job, you're fulfilling the need of both the interviewer and the interviewee yourself and making it better overall. Okay. So now let's get into some interview essentials. Abe, you're off mute. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, if you were eventually going to talk about this, like interviewing process, like at a startup, at like a medium-sized company, Fortune 500, if you have any insights on kind of each level of like business size, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's going to go aligned with what you might expect. The bigger the company, the more bureaucratic, the more pressure from HR, the more protections in place, the less communication, the slower the communication, yada, yada, yada. There are exceptions. Some companies have organizations set up in a way that they can move quickly, even if they're large, but not always the case. I've worked for companies so small that HR wasn't really even a department, and they'd issue offers after buying you lunch, that sort of thing, right? So it's all over the board, but the reality still exists that there's a need that needs to be filled, and it's still a stressful process from the interviewer side of the fence. So they're always wanting to get that thing filled quickly. It's usually, I think you've hit on a good point. It's usually the nature of the organization that's trying to do the filling that determines just how dysfunctional that thing actually becomes. So the smaller the organization, in theory, the faster they move. If you're working with a small organization and they're taking forever, it's because they are so disorganized, they are so far beyond. You probably don't want to touch that because you're just going to get caught up in whatever chaos is ensuing over there. If they're a well-organized, fast-growing organization, they should be able to issue something quickly and get you on board and contributing quickly. If they're big and it takes time, that's just kind of the name of the game. And if it doesn't, then they've got their crap together. So it's all over the board. There's no hard and fast rules for this stuff. Does that answer your question? Okay. Lou, I haven't forgotten your question. I'm thinking that I'm going to come up to it here very quickly. So essential outcomes. So after the interviewer should absolutely come away from the interview knowing who you are, both personally and professionally. They should know what drives you personally and professionally. They should know why you would be an asset on their team. And they should know what makes you a hot commodity. Okay. So I'm going to go over all of those things now in more detail, talking about the types of questions that you need to be prepared to answer. So there's going to be about you or background questions. You have to expect that. There's going to be questions about goals, ambitions, working with others, your learning style, and then the why should we choose you? So these are the different varieties that you need to be prepared for. So I went over those two slides very quickly because I wanted to get into this specific question section where, again, if you want to take notes, this would be the place to do it. In the module, in the Analytics Career Access program, there's actually a whole worksheet thing that you work through and answer questions. But a lot of this shouldn't be super shocking to you guys. That's the reality, is the about you type questions or your background. This is probably the most frustrating question on the planet Earth for me, simply because it is the most asked question, probably of any question, tell me about yourself, that at least 50% of people are completely unprepared, or they present themselves as completely unprepared to talk about. You sit down, you make your pleasantries, and you go, okay, so tell me about yourself, or hey, walk me through your resume. And they stop and they look and they pick up their resume and they start reading to you, or some sort of fumbling talking about I was born out in New Orleans, and just talking about complete nonsense, right? You need to be prepared to answer that question, please, for the love of everything that is holy. You need to be prepared to talk about why you made certain decisions that you did, like why did you go to school here or there? Why did you choose this major? There's no right or wrong answer. This is them learning about you. This is learning about what makes you tick, what makes you interesting, what makes you memorable. What was your top achievement at XYZ company? This is usually as a result of not having your resume set up in a way where you're actually highlighting your key achievements. So they're going to want to know, like, so what was your takeaway here? What was your takeaway from there? Or what were you proud of that you did here or there? And then what do you do for fun outside of work? People also will try to either avoid or water down these types of things. No, I think that you should absolutely be yourself and talk very excitedly about this stuff, because if you can't get passionate about your fun outside of work or whatever your hobbies are, then you just come across as a generally boring person. And not that that's a bad thing. The name of the game here is being memorable. This is something I don't know that enough people think about, is that what happens when you leave the room, you're suddenly back to being a piece of paper and a stack of other pieces of paper. So what do the people that just talk to you remember about you? You need to think about this, because the most successful candidates walk out of the room and nobody has to pick up your resume again because they remember you. Like, oh yeah, Abe, the jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah, he was a Marine. That guy was awesome. I think we should hire Abe. Don't even think about the other people, because he was so memorable. We painted like we remember Abe. if you don't have to, if they don't have to reach for your resume and they've got it all up here and it's not written down or something like that, then you have been successful. So that's why a lot of what I get into after this section is about story arc and telling your coherent story. It's about building this character. Like, who are you as a person, as a character, so that they remember you when you walk away. You may not be the strongest candidate. You may not be the best at Excel, but if they remember you and what you represented, you're going to get more offers. I guarantee it. Okay. More specific questions, goals and ambitions. So why are you looking for a job? You need an answer to that question. You need a good answer to that question, because if you don't have a good answer to why are you looking for a job, they're suspicious. Like, you know what, and this is a meme, right? Some of these are actually like, where do you see yourself in years? People crap on these questions all the time. Like, why are you looking for a job? Well, I need money. I need to pay my bills. Like, yeah, haha, I get it. No, seriously, why are you leaving that job? Or why are you looking for this specific job? Don't be a smartass. Like, seriously, why? What led you here? That's part of your story. You should share that. Where do you see yourself in? Yeah.
So an appropriate answer, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You shouldn't say celebrating my 5-year anniversary here.
You can say whatever you want. I just think you need to have a thoughtful answer to that question. If it's ambitious, then be ambitious and say, you know, I want to be a strong contributing member to this team, and whatever happens in 5 years, I just hope that I'm able to make the biggest impact possible. That is a completely BS answer I just made up, but it's gonna open up the doors. We're gonna get to this more too, but the idea that your responses should be the beginning of some back and forth. So whatever you say, you should end it with a little bit of a question. So like, so what is a typical career path? You know, I know what I want to do. I want to do this, that, and that. That's what I'm hoping to accomplish here. But can you tell me, you've been here for however many years, you said that before. What did it look like at year 5? Were you where you thought you were? You start a dialogue. Again, that's becoming memorable. They're going to remember the conversations that they had with you. Okay. But yeah, Abe, say whatever you want. I don't care. Tell me about your most proud goal that you've achieved. What would you do if money was no object? Again, we're getting into like what drives you. What are you all about? These are not gotcha questions. They're serious questions trying to get a sense for who you are and what drives you, what motivates you. And now working with others, learning style. This is classic behavioral interviewing. Like, tell me about a time you had a conflict at X, or you had a disagreement with your manager, or you didn't get along with a coworker, or you had a problem in a project. You need an answer to those questions. How do you like to learn new things? Are you a listener, a doer, a watcher? Like, what is it that you do that helps you learn? How do you deal with difficult coworkers? Tell me about a time you got stuck on something. All questions that have to do with how you learn, how you work, how you interact with other people. Behavioral questions, you need an answer to these questions, okay? And then why should we choose you? This one, this is more good books on this, like The Art of Persuasion and other books on psychology and selling and negotiating and stuff like that. You don't have to be coy, but if you're asked the question like, hey, are you interviewing somewhere else? Hopefully, if you're serious in your job search, you are looking at other places. Even if you don't have an interview, you should say, you know what? There's a lot of opportunities out there right now that I'm looking at and considering. Some of them are more interesting than others, but I'm super interested in what your company has to offer, right? Making it clear that, look, you aren't the only show in town. I have options here. I do like what's going on here, but I'm open, right? How do you quantify the value that you bring to the table? This is another good one. We're analysts, right? We should be able to quantify the value that we provide or that we have provided to entities in the past, right? So it's important to be able to identify that and put it in the context of the business that you're talking to. Have you ever had to train others? This is another good question about like, hey, if this person was that good that we wanted them to help elevate the rest of the team, could they do that? Demonstrating that you've done something like that in the past is the best way to really show that you have expert level skills in some regard. And then why did you apply to this role? Once again, like having a clear intent for what you're doing and why you're doing it just paints that picture a whole lot better. Okay. Building your story. Any questions? Anybody need to interrupt? in the moment?
Yeah, you're probably gonna get to this, Matt, but well, I think both are very important for veterans. So like one, salary, because if you are a veteran leaving active duty, you know, you pretty much know when you're getting paid, how much it is, you know what your peers are getting paid. So how do as brand new entrants into the civilian workforce, how do we, you know, not answer that in a dumb way, to kind of put it bluntly, and then, you know, how can we, you know, transfer, you know, talk about our skills in a good way. Like for example, a couple of my friends were in the infantry. You know, I don't know any places that need machine gunners outside of the military. So basically like talking about their skills and like translating it, you know, so that that'll make that person, you know, be hireable, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah. No, great question. It's actually one of my notes that I've got two notes here. One was a question I got right before I came on from Molly Welsh, and she was asking exactly about like salary and when is it appropriate to bring that up? How do you address that kind of question? That is something that I can speak to. I think I'll probably get to that in the Q&A. That might be because I don't know that it fits with the presentation proper, but it's absolutely germane to this discussion. As far as the applying the background to this situation, I think I'm going to get to it actually right here as we're building the narrative and talking about character development. So just a cheesy reminder, you are the most qualified person to tell your story. I was actually going to kick this whole thing off with the about me section saying that, you know, I hate talking about myself. And ironically, that's kind of, I think, one of the issues that a lot of people have with interviewing is it's kind of uncomfortable. It's funny too, though, because like in a casual situation, people love to talk about themselves. They do. Like you love being asked questions about your passions and things like that. People do. But in an interview situation where you're supposed to like toot your own horn and be all super confident and, you know, just be the person in the spotlight, it's uncomfortable. It's not natural for most people. Some people it is, Abe, but some people it's not. So just as a reminder, you are the most qualified person to tell your story. Therefore, you should come in knowing and being honest with your why. And if I put why in quotes, I'm a Simon Sinek fan most of the time. He's got a little 5-minute excerpt of one of his TED Talks, and he talks about the golden circle. And it's like talking about like your why or the why of a company or something like that. I rewatch that video probably a couple times a year, just as a reminder of like, what is my why as it relates to me as a person? What is my why in my work environment? Like, why do I do what I do? Having that very clear distilled message and knowing it and living it and believing it is going to do wonders for you as you come in here and making sure that you're true to yourself and your message is consistent. You need to own the personal and professional side of yourself. I've kind of talked about that. I've heard it said something to the effect of like your resume is like your skeleton, and then the interview provides the rest of you. It's your soul, it's your being. You need them to see you as a whole person, as a character. So own that, own yourself, own the whole you, and then recognize and own what makes you unique. I think I just said that. So now let's talk about identifying your story. Where are you on your story arc? What is your background? So this is kind of the stuff you're talking about, Abe. In the workshop, I go much more in depth on this, but just think about like when we're all in elementary school and we're told how to like write a story, right? There's like the character development, the building, the rising action, the conflict, and then the big climax, and then the descending action and all that kind of crap. I would challenge you when you go into an interview to try to have it in your mind that this is like a story arc and this interview is like the climax, right? So you've got this character development. This is your background. This is where you were molded, like you were shaped into who you are and what you want. You've got this rising action as you're getting experience, you're learning things, you're learning about what you like, you're building skill set. And then as you're getting up to this climactic event, it's this job, it's this new role that is just like the perfect transition point for you as this character. And you want the interviewers to be rooting for you as a character to get to that next level. It's like, this makes so much sense for this person to have this role because of everything that they just did. And they're going to feel that way if you've done a good job building your character development, making sure that you understand why you've done what you've done and how it supported you in your process, and then making sure that this role actually fits and is coherent in your story arc. Coherence is key, because a lot of people, you know, they'll walk into an interview with a bunch of stories, right? But they're disparate, they're random, and that's fine. It'll cover bases, but again, it takes away from being memorable. It takes away from having that clear character development element. You need to be a storyteller. That's kind of what it gets down to. So building your storyboard. This was the takeaway. This was like the homework in the workshop. So I was instructing people to, okay, choose 5 sub-stories. And there was a worksheet that went with this. But basically, you got to get dialed in your tell me about yourself story. Thing number 1, no questions asked. You have to have that. Number 2, I want a story that you share about what motivates you, what drives you, what gets you excited. Okay. I want 2 stories about what you're good at. This is talking about hard skills, soft skills, maybe 1 of each, 1, 2, 2, or 1, 1, 2. These are just rough numbers. You can have as many as you want, but the more you have, it starts to get a little bit, you might, you know, kind of lose yourself in the interview. But having 2 stories for what you're good at that demonstrate use of skills is pretty solid. And then why will you be good for X company? You need a solid story for that. And all of these things should be feeding you along your story arc. Okay. And again, I want you to, I think I get into this. So I was about to just ramble off, but I think I've got notes. So these should all loosely follow the STAR model. Everybody talks about the STAR model. I think it's a little goofy, because if you're telling a good story, you're going to cover all of those things: situation, result, all that kind of crap. So the whole point is that you tell an engaging story, and that you talk about what happened, why it happened, and what your takeaway was. A lot of people just stop at the, this is what happened and this is what I did. That's great, but what do you do now? Like how does that carry over into you and building your story? So that's how it relates to this. I don't want you to go into an interview and start thinking like, oh, what was the S? What was the T? I forget what the T meant. I got to fill that in. No, tell your story and just loosely reference the STAR model. Make sure you're checking those boxes. Okay. Don't overthink this. The more you overthink this stuff, the more you're going to get just skittish in an interview, and you're going to ramble, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. Each of these should include conflict or cooperation, and each should show a lesson and takeaway action. Each should also lead to further interaction. So again, each of these little stories that I said back here, right? All of these guys, they should all do all of these things. They should cover the STAR model. They should include conflict or cooperation. You should have some message that you took away and that changed your way of working. And you should have a segue into, so this is how I learned that. Like, what do you guys do for training in this company? Or, you know, just kind of opening it back up for dialogue. That's super powerful if you can pull that off tactfully. I think that's what I wanted to say here. Telling your story. So this is just a reminder of what I consider the essential outcomes. So the interviewer should come away knowing who you are, personally and professionally, what drives you, why you would be an asset to the team, and what makes you a hot commodity. So let's tell the story. In order to tell your story, you got to engage the interviewer. So answer every question, obviously, and then respond with one of your own. So like I said, you tell your little story, you know those things backwards and forwards and front and back, and you can adapt those stories to whatever type of question gets asked. And then you want to transition that to a response of your own, trying to get more engagement from the interviewer. This shouldn't just be you talking at them. You want to make your stories engaging and consistent, again, following the story arc. You need to leave no question who you are as a person. They need to come away knowing, again, your objective for the interview is that you walk out and they never have to look at your resume again because they remember who you were. Make it super clear what your value proposition is, okay? Power of practice, this kind of goes without saying, but know your stories forward and backwards. That allows you to make them adaptable. This is more workshop crap, but just like write them. I don't care. However you learn, do it that way. I'm someone who likes to write it down, read it out, write it down again, and then read it out, record myself, make sure that I've got a good sense for how it looks, how it feels, what doesn't seem to work. and then the interview happens and it never comes out the way that you did it, but it's appropriate for the situation. You want to be so comfortable with these stories that you can tell them and adapt them on the fly. Don't just recite, smile, emote, relive, like get engaged. Again, it's easier said than done, but don't feel like you just have to sit with your hands crossed and do this kind of crap in an interview. If that's the culture, fine. If that's what you want to work in, fine. That is not how I interact. That is not how a lot of people interact when they're excited about what they're talking about. So just let it be yourself, okay? And if this is what yourself is, fine. If this is what yourself is, fine. I'm just saying, emote, try to emote a little bit, okay? This is, I think, the last section. Are we okay on time, guys? I know my timer says 45 minutes.
I could listen
You're
to you talk
fine.
all day.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
you're fine. Keep going.
Sir, yes, sir. Okay. Technical rules of engagement. Again, I'm not going to get into talking about like actual technical specifics. I'm talking about just technical topics and how to address them. So just as a reminder, when discussing technical topics, the storytelling does not stop, okay? That's why I had you, there's going to be 2 stories that you write down or you memorize about how you've learned a skill or about something you're good at, right? That goes for technical skills. Like how have you used in Excel or in SQL or in Python? What is the most complex thing that you've done, or most complex project or most interesting project or something like that? Have a story about that. Don't just rattle off random stuff that you've done. If you want to be memorable, tell a story that they are going to remember. Everybody else is going to say the same crap. Make sure that you don't. Never start in the weeds. So this one's important. Be prepared to go there, but never start in the weeds. So when you're talking about, this is going to get into like project portfolios and stuff like that. I say here, sell your skills up here. Sell your skills at a high level. Talk about in general, like, and something that you've accomplished in a tool or an approach that you used, and then allow through engagement for you to get down, down, down. Don't start down here, because then it's confusing. It's ripe for error and like, well, you need to understand, you're backtracking. It makes for a hot mess of a story. Keep your stories up here at a higher level. And then if you actually did what you say you did, it should be super easy to go down when they take you down there. Don't drag them down there just for fun, okay? Let them take you down and then respond appropriately. Now, do not share a portfolio if you're not prepared. And then I get into talking about portfolio sharing tips. So this is just based on personal experience. I've got a lot of very strong opinions about portfolios. I know this is a Tableau user group. So I think Tableau and portfolio almost kind of go interchangeably in some spaces. I think that other people might get mad that I just said that, but in my mind, that's kind of how they all interoperate. And I can't tell you how many times people have shared portfolios of stuff that they've just like copied, and they can't say a damn thing about what they did or why they did it or how they did it. They just did it, and their name is on it. It's like you just copied someone's homework. It's one thing to learn a skill or to hone a skill or sharpen the skill by learning from someone else. That is completely appropriate. I'm not against that. But if you're being asked to share a portfolio and this is something that you can't speak on, you just copied it, you have to be able to see that that's a problem, right? That's not going to get you brownie points. In which case, I would say don't share your portfolio in that instance. Talk about the skills that you've worked on. And if they want to see it, say, look, I worked through this project. It was a step-by-step walkthrough. I'm happy to share that sort of thing. But don't put it out there, because you never know. It may be someone like me who sees all of the stuff that people share, and it's like the same thing being shared over and over and over again. It's like, look, I know you didn't do that, but I'm still going to ask you questions like you did. And then you're going to be in hot water. It's just not going to be fun for anyone, okay? I also say know your why and be passionate. So if you pursue a project, know why you did it. Like have a story. Like I want, like Abe, I'm going to keep picking on you, but he's working on this jujitsu thing, right? He's super passionate about jujitsu. I'm sorry, I forgot, was it Eve or whoever mentioned earlier about wanting to do rugby stats? That would be a freaking awesome project, because you could tell she's passionate about it. You can go and create the data yourself. You can visualize it however you want. You can tell whatever story you want. People are going to remember that. It doesn't even have to be the best project in the world. They're going to remember it. They're going to see that you took time to create something that was uniquely yours, and they're going to remember it. And that's what's important. Okay. And then I just remind you, get down and nerdy at your discretion, because you should be expected. If you do that, you're going to get questions at that level. So this gets back to like playing in the weeds. And then don't get defensive. If people do start poking at stuff that you've done, don't go like, oh, well, you know, this is, I did it this way because that's the right. No, they're trying to understand what you did and why you did it. So maybe you didn't do a good job of explaining it, or they're testing to see how teachable you are. Are you open to feedback? How do you interact? They're already imagining working with you, right? Think about it like that. You're sharing work. It's like, this is your manager. They asked you to do something and you did it. And now they're looking at it. They want to understand it. They want to know why you did it that way or how you did it this way. Maybe they see you did something that was like a rookie mistake and they want to see if you're open to learning a better way. Don't get defensive. Be open-minded. This just goes with being a generally good person to work with. So, okay. Next steps, I'm going to blaze through this because I know we're running on time, but before you walk away from an interview, directly ask about next steps. Get contact information if you don't have it already. Send a thank you email recounting your value proposition. Never hurts to do these things if you are able to. Last but not least, absolutely not least, you need to trust the process. It sucks. Back to several slides back. You need to trust the process. It does suck. Don't go emailing them every other day. If it's been a week, shoot them a note, just reminding them of, you know, your interest in the role and just checking in, that sort of thing. That's fine. But just, you got to chill out. All right. And that was kind of it. I know that there are the questions that I need to get back to. So just real quick recap what a successful interview looks like. You came prepared, you executed your plan, meaning you told all your stories, you did it all, you left it all in the interview. You're clear on what happens next. That one's super important. And if you want to contact me, here's some ways to do that. So, whew. Abe, you want me to answer that other question? The question about like talking about your background and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure.
So the two questions that I do have are that one and then the salary question. So I don't know if there's been, I see the chat's got 99 plus for I haven't seen any of the chat, but I'm open to however many questions. I will let you guys be the regulators on time because I genuinely don't know how much time you still need. So just real quick, this is my email address. You can email me there if you feel so compelled. I'm on LinkedIn. Please follow and or connect with me. I love making connections in this space. If you couldn't tell, I'm fairly passionate about this stuff. I have a YouTube channel where I try to talk about all things data analytics, and I've got a website, tmbanalytics.com, and that is definitely a work in progress. And just for people who decided to jump in here, I was told that I could plug this. I'm not a good salesperson, but I do have this analytics career access program. And what I just went through is that green section there, the analytics interview workshop. That was the abbreviated version of that workshop. This is the full program. And if you guys are interested in this thing, you can shoot me a note. You can ask me about it. Abe's enrolled. You can ask him questions about it. I'm still working on a lot of this. It's going to get bigger, badder, awesome, or better, not badder. I was going to say more badass, but whatever. It's going to be more badass. But if you do have an interest in checking out this program, use code TUG20. You can get 20% off. And with that, I'll just leave that up for right now. No, I won't. I'm going to put my contact information back up. I'm going to answer those questions. I'm going to make an effort. Abe, what?
And then kind of one more on top of that, just because I've heard this, dressing for the job or dressing for the interview.
Oh, you would ask about clothing.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like if you're going to go work on the farm, you're not going to show up in a suit. I mean, I don't know.
Man, I'm the wrong person to ask about this. So I feel the right answer to this question is to, I think it's completely appropriate to ask the people, hey, what's the typical attire? I just want to make sure that I'm dressed appropriately when I show up. Some people may not like that. And I'll be completely honest. So you can't really fail wearing a suit. I would say anybody who's worn a suit to come interview at the company I work for, it looks a little funny, but it's only because we're super casual. Like we are shorts and t-shirts sort of stuff, right? So it depends on the culture. So the more you know about a company when you apply, then you should have a better sense for what they're expecting you to walk in at. When in doubt, wear a freaking suit or whatever, be somewhat formal. But don't be afraid to be yourself. And if that involves just wearing like a coat and a shirt, if that involves just wearing like a button down, whatever, I don't care. I confess I'm the wrong person to ask that.
Two questions from the chat, Matt, if you don't mind if I ask.
Yeah, sure.
Terry asks, for Tableau Public, I know we should post our beginning work, but do you control the order time of when it is done? Early stuff is going to be crappy compared to 5 years. I say post even if you think it's bad. My first post I ever did on LinkedIn was some garbage tree map I made in Excel. And I think I've come a long way from there, but I think as long as you just start posting, eventually you'll get better. And that's the beauty of posting this stuff, because no one I've met in the analytics community has been kind of rude or kind of like snarky. You know, you post something, you get feedback, and you build up from there. And then second question is from, sorry if I mispronounced your name, Kylan. Hey Matt, quick question: how do we differentiate between the star response and the non-traditional star response type of questions?
Okay. So the Tableau question, that was almost more of a LinkedIn question, was it not? Or was it actually asking about Tableau Public or LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's what it said.
Yeah,
So
Tableau.
if we're talking about Tableau Public, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you what, if you want to put stuff out there and share it and get feedback, then that's up to you. That's the approach I would take. I would be totally open to like putting my stuff out. You have to be willing to be bad at something to ultimately be good at something, right? You have to be open to feedback. You also have to expect that people might be an asshole to you and be okay with that. You're the one that's trying to learn and better yourself. So it's on them if they've got a problem with what you do. Next month, Al Bellamy is going to come out here and he's going to be talking about LinkedIn. So I don't want to like get too far into that stuff because he's the man in that sphere. But my perspective on LinkedIn or any of this stuff really is like, what is your end game? What are you trying to accomplish? I know why I post on LinkedIn. If I had a Tableau Public, I would know why I was doing that. It would be because I'm trying to get attention, or I'm trying to get better, or I'm trying to do some sort of thing. I'm trying to market my skills. And if it's one of those things, then what is the most appropriate thing for you to share? And if you're just getting started, I think it's kind of, I'm going to use a jujitsu analogy. Putting your stuff out there is a lot like competing. You're testing your skills. You're putting yourself out there to see how it relates to what's out in the space. You're either going to do better, worse, or whatever, but you're going to learn and you're going to do better. And as you do better, as you progress, you may want to show that progression. You may not. You may want just a highlight reel, and that's totally appropriate if that's all you want to show. If you want to show that progression, that's totally appropriate if that's what you want to show. I can't answer that question for you. As someone who might look at somebody's profile, if I see a bunch of garbage, if there's a chance I might click on the crappy stuff first, you might want to have a very clear about me and make sure that the narrative is clear. Like, look, this shows my progression so that I know what I'm looking at and I don't just click on the first thing and go like, what is this? I need to know what I'm ultimately looking at. So again, that's shame on me for not knowing enough about how Tableau Public actually shows people's work. If you have control over how it's presented, then that's something that you should definitely take the user experience into consideration.
Hey everyone, sorry, we actually are kind of running low on time. Any questions? I'm sure Matt wouldn't mind if you guys reached out to him directly, but we kind of have to just like move it on before we get kicked off of the Zoom. But we going on to the next part of the show. For those of you that have served or know of the service pretty well, there's this thing called challenge coins, and challenge coins is kind of like a military tradition, kind of handing, kind of like presenting God, I should have been more prepared for this, but you just kind of have someone a coin, give them, and it's kind of like a camaraderie thing that we have in the military. So Matt, I will get your address, and we're gonna mail you this coin as a small thank you for your time today here. Sharing with us all these golden nuggets of knowledge that you have.
That's super cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
And then next part here, we actually have a challenge coming up. So Ethan, Tim, when do you guys want to talk about this real quick?
Yeah, I can cover that. Yeah, thanks guys for joining, and thank you, Matt, for the presentation. That was fantastic. Yeah, definitely well deserved with the coin. We appreciate you coming. We do have another challenge kicking off. Like many of you know, we typically do a challenge. We're trying to go once a quarter where we partner with an organization and get some data and allow you guys to play with that data and create something and build your own portfolios. This challenge is coming from, we were reached out to by Alan Hillary, I believe his last name is. He reached out, he has this data set that he's been putting together. He's been working with an organization called CAF. They have a lot of data on the Tuskegee Airmen. They are an organization that looks at Air Force memorabilia and history and tries to keep all that treasured. And they will like rebuild aircraft and stuff from World War II and that kind of thing. So they have a ton of data on the Tuskegee Airmen. So we have a data set that has pilot roster. It has who was a prisoner of war and when, reported lost on missions, fighter group comparisons, just all kinds of interesting data on the Tuskegee Airmen Air Group and their time during World War II. So we're going to launch this on February 7th and pass out the data to everybody. We do have a tug meeting for that day, February 7th. I think it's on this exact same time from about, was it 5 Central, 6 Eastern, just to see if anyone has any questions. But we would have that Airman Challenge meeting, like I said, on February 7th. If you guys have any questions, we can answer it at that time. We'll be kicking this off via social as well. And the data, I think we're going to use GitHub this time. The last challenge we had, we kind of learned, we were trying to pass it through Slack, and that just wasn't the best way to get the data to everyone. So I think we're going to try GitHub this round and see how that goes. And we look forward to everyone participating, building their own portfolio. Like Matt mentioned, we've had several other speakers mention the same thing. Building that portfolio is really important, especially if you're looking to upskill yourself. It's a great way to demonstrate your skills and everything like that. So looking forward to this one. It's gonna be really fun.
And yeah, that's kind of our closing remarks. There's all our contact info if you all want to reach us directly. Tim, Lou, you guys want to add anything else before we kind of shut this down?
Yeah, I do actually. So I just wanted to recap. Our last challenge was Project Echelon, which is a group that they presented a couple months ago in November, I believe. And what they do, they're a group that is also a professional elite cycling team that competes in the United States and sometimes abroad. And we asked everyone if they wanted to join and make a visualization based on their data. And what they do, they connect with veterans to help them become better athletes, specifically cyclists and triathletes and things like that. And it was really cool because I really felt like our group made an impact on them, because they didn't have objective data to show that their program was actually working. So we did a survey and they collected data for that. And then mainly Ethan built the dashboard, and we had other people submit their work as well. But it's actually up on their website now. so people can actually go to their website and see the work that our group is doing. So if you want to get involved in that, was super cool. I thought about doing this for years, since Chris and I started this tug, and just to see it come to fruition was awesome. So there was a bunch of lessons learned from that, how we could have done a little smoothly, like Ethan touched on, and involving more of the group and everything. But we really want everyone involved in it, and it really made a difference. Eric Hill, the founder of Project Echelon, he was blown away. He was like, this is really, I think he used like beautiful, because we really told the story of vets with PTSD becoming better for their family, better fathers, better mothers, better friends because of Project Echelon, and they didn't have the subjective data to show that. So that's what we're trying to do here. So if you're interested, please reach out and say that you want to be part of our challenges, and that's it. One last thing, I know that Eve, you talked about rugby and wanting to do a rugby dashboard. Will Strauss, I think who's here right now, I think, if he's still on, but he sent us a message. There is a collaboration sign up form, and I had the link, but I lost it. But and I'll post it later. But you actually sign up to collaborate with people if you want to make a visualization and you want to work with somebody on the visualization. So that might be an option for you, which I think is super cool. So if there's something that you want to build a dashboard on or something, and you fill out this questionnaire, and then you can get connected with somebody who also has the same interest. So I'll post that up on LinkedIn or whatever, so people can see that. But that's all I have.
That is the thing, Tim. Sorry, I don't have the link handy, but yeah. So just like they had a data fam program where you could look for a mentor into your relationship, there was this day one. I signed up and I got linked up with Mark Bradburn, who's like Zen master level data artist, and we started a collab viz together. So there's a ton of people who are all lined up waiting to work on something. And if you just specifically mention sports in there, and Ethan, if you could make a viz that explains the rules of rugby to me, I'm sure I would love it. Seems great, but I need help.
I actually wouldn't mind collabing with someone about some of my jiu-jitsu data. I'm taking like the past 6 months of data that I have, and first I need to figure out how to put it all in one Excel sheet, but would be nice to collaborate with someone on that.
I just put in the chat the link to her Medium post. Her name is Nicole Klassen.
Yes.
And it has the link.
Awesome, thank you.
So
man, I guess that rugby thing really became memorable.
Yeah, I want to do one with cycling, like because I'm actually I cycle myself, so I was, and they don't have a good to see like coming events or results or anything. There's nothing really out there that's really good. So I kind of want to make a dashboard to fill that need. So if anyone's interested, let me know.
Cool. Lou, Ethan, anything?
No, just a plug for us. There's 4 of us, but we're always looking for a few good men or women to join our leadership group to help us reach more audience. So please reach out to either one of us if you're interested in helping out Tug. I see it.
And also real quick, if you got just LinkedIn wise, if you go to our profiles or anyone's profile and you want to see when they post, just hit that bell button, I guess, if that's what you call it, and then you can see when we post updates about the tug or just whatever we post about, so you don't have to go looking for it. Anything, Ethan? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to reiterate that. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for everyone joining. We're a pretty close-knit group. I see there's a lot of new faces this go around. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the next few meetings. Hopefully you guys participate in the next challenge. It's going to be a good one.